G'day guys and gal! Despite pretty much every story in Warhammer being a bit of a wank fest for the Imperium, the Empire of Mankind does get slapped in its nuts on the daily. Xeno raiders, space bug invasions, and that minor problem called chaos. Not to mention the fact that nobody slaps the Imperium's nuts harder than the Imperium. To make matters worse, Cadia, the planet that was preventing the nut slapping from becoming a full-on stiletto nut stomping, was blown up by Abaddon, causing the Eye of Terror to expand and cut the galaxy in half, preventing half the Imperium from accessing the Astronomicon. Oh yeah, and more Tyranids arrived, the Orcs got hornier for war, and demons can pretty much attack wherever they want whenever they want now. Like Khorne cum-dumped a big-ass army on the Imperial Palace that nearly killed the Emperor for a laugh. So it was pretty welcome when Roboute Guilliman, one of the only Primarchs with basic common sense, returned from the dead and basically spanked the galaxy back into shape, using his incredible organizational skills to gather to him one of the greatest navies the galaxy has ever seen since the Great Crusade. With this obscenely large armada, he was basically able to purge the galaxy, bringing mankind back from the brink of total collapse. Good work, G-Man. Before we get started, Christmas is rapidly approaching and you're probably wondering what random gifts and presents to get your friends and family. You're probably looking to find a non-expensive, quirky, and unique gift that would make people be like, hey, that's pretty good. Well, look no further as I've partnered up with Bokksu for today's video. Bokksu is a subscription service that sends you a box full of interesting, unique, and very tasty Japanese snacks. Everything in this box that you consume will be unlike anything you've ever tasted before. Unless you've hit Japan a few times, and maybe not. I personally brought my Bokksu box to a chill beers night with the boys and it was a huge hit. I was the cool one for once. Well, not that cool, but a lot cooler than I would have been without this bad boy. To take this even further, anyone in the US who buys a Bokksu box will enter in the draw to get a free pair of tickets to Japan. So yeah, that would be a pretty sick Christmas gift. So if you want to get an awesome gift for someone or even yourself, try some unique and very tasty Japanese snacks and teas, and maybe get free tickets to Japan, then use my link and code Majorkill for 10% off your Bokksu subscription. Cheers to Bokksu for sponsoring this video. Today we'll be going over the Indomitus Crusade, how it was organized, what it achieved, and some of the more notable battles that occurred during its legendary tenure. Let's get into it. Let's set the scene. Cadia is falling, everything's fucked. There's demons and shit everywhere. All of our favorite heroes in the galaxy have just barely made it out alive and are beelining to Ultramar. They're doing this as through a combination of the Ynnari's death magic as well as Belisarius Caul's technological prowess, they believe they've discovered the means to resurrect Guilliman from the dead. Abaddon finds out about their plan and he shits the bed. Despite his best efforts, Guilliman is revived and Abaddon's invasion is sent screaming back to hell. Unfortunately for Guilliman, his sore back as a result of sitting in the same position for over 10,000 years was to be the least of his problems. After waking up in the middle of a war zone with zero context or tutorial on what was going on, Guilliman then led a crusade to Terra so he could talk to Dad. Well, that crusade was a bit of a disaster, as the forces of Titsnich, led by Magnus the Red and Kairos Fateweaver, constantly harried and attacked the crusade, at one point even capturing Guilliman. Eventually G-Man gets to the moon next to Terra and has to throw hands with Magnus, who is significantly more powerful. G-Man gets burnt with hellfire, gets a building thrown at him, and just has an all-round shit time. Eventually, with a lot of help, he does prevail and he banishes Magnus back to the warp. Then he goes to Terra to talk to his dad. But wait, there's more. Khorne comes out of fucking nowhere and he just shits out a massive demon army on Terra, forcing G-Man to fend off the largest invasion of Terra since the Horus Heresy. After all that, he finally talks to Dad, and yeah, let's just say it wasn't a wholesome teary reunion. G-Man sees his father and realizes he is nothing more than a tool wielded by an uncaring god with a shattered consciousness. So after all this tragedy, a rotten dying Imperium cut in half, a shitty father, and a lot of salty demon brothers, what does G-Man do? Does he give up? Does he take a holiday? Fuck no! Roboute decides that the galaxy is one big pair of cheeks in need of a good clapping, hence prepares the largest crusade that's ever been seen in over 10,000 years. The Indomitus Crusade. However, not even Guilliman can just click his fingers and spawn a mega huge armada and an army to go along with it. A few things had to happen. Firstly, Guilliman purged Terra, killing countless billion heretics, Xeno, corrupt people, and other unsavory characters from it. This was basically to clean off the rust of the machine that was the Imperium, in order for his future plans to run more smoothly. After that, he replaced most of the High Lords with more loyal persons of his choosing, so he wouldn't get bogged down in the politics of his ambitions. The funny thing here is that the High Lords he fired thought they were hot shit, and they planned to sabotage and overthrow Guilliman. However, he was able to thwart them without any real effort. Other noble people who thought they were King Dick tried to rip off Guilliman or hold his crusade random. These people quickly discovered not to fuck with the Primarch, as they ended up either stripped of their wealth and power, publicly shamed and flogged, or straight up dead via large blue power fist going up their rectal orifice. Guilliman secured the armies of the Mechanicus, the Sisters of Battle, the Sisters of Silence, the Grey Knights, the Adeptus Custodes, and more. Call also unleashed the Primaris project, adding hundreds of thousands of new elite space marines to the cause. It wasn't enough though, so Guilliman sent out a massive group text to the galaxy, requesting every single available guardsman, shipmaster, and space marine to return to Terra and prepare for war. There were some exceptions. If a guardsman regiment or space marine chapter was successfully holding off or even beating the enemy that was invading them, then they were allowed to stay put. But if a guardsman regiment or chapter was losing, then they were ordered to abandon the world they were defending and head to Terra. The logic behind this was that worlds can always be retaken, restored, and repopulated, so there was no point losing valuable soldiers and resources protecting these doomed worlds. Some did ignore G-Man's orders and decided to make heroic last stands, but many more returned to Terra. The administrative requirements for this undertaking were so obscene that Guilliman had to form a new organisation called the Officio Logisticarum, sure, that's close enough, whose sole purpose was to run the books and numbers for the Indomitus Crusade. It's shit like this that puts the Imperium above the rest. You reckon Chaos has millions of people recording ship logs, resource requirements, travel times? Fuck no. This is why Chaos Crusades go to shit. Crusading takes organizational skills. Organization is the literal antithesis to chaos on a fundamental level. Finally, the big ass fleet was assembled and ready for war. In terms of size, the Indomitus Crusade was made up of 10 legendary fleets that were broken down further into battle groups. Overall, the Crusade had about 1,000 or more ships in it. However, the plan wasn't just to yeet a mega huge 1,000 fleet ship at one target at a time. That would have been overkill and inefficient. Hence, each fleet spread out from Terra like forking tendrils, slowly breaking up as they cleansed planet after planet. The Crusade never really ran out of steam, as the losses it incurred could be recovered by liberating worlds under siege. Each battle group was very diverse and contained at least one squad of Custodes, Sisters of Silence, and Tech Priests. This was due to the fact that the secondary objective of the Indomitus Crusade was to provide the various Space Marine chapters with Primaris Marines, as well as the technology to create Primaris Marines. The Custodes were there to be like, say yes to Primaris, the Emperor wills it, if you say no, I'll fuck you up, boy. The Sisters were there to keep any warp shenanigans away from the Primaris tech, and the Toaster Boys were there because they were the only ones who knew how to use the tech. The first main battle of the Indomitus Crusade was against the Cornite Crusade of Slaughter, a dark crusade of blood god simps who were tearing their way across the galaxy. Fleet Territus, which was only one of the 10 Indomitus fleets, engaged the Slaughter Crusade and massacred it, showing off the might of the Imperium. Left, right, and center, the forces of chaos were cockblocked. World after world, system after system was liberated as the burning vengeance of humanity was on full display. Guilliman himself led one of the fleets and fought against various greater demons and demon princes. Each time he walked away unharmed, as the enemy was either banished back to hell or straight up permakilled by G-Man's flaming sword. Eventually, the Indomitus Crusade became so feared by the enemies of the Imperium that the mere mention of it was enough to halt a planet-wide rebellion in its tracks. This is what happened with Necromunda, for example. Funnily enough, when Catachan was visited by the Crusade, the demons that invaded it had been long banished, so it was less of a liberation and more of a recruitment visit. If a world could not be saved, then it would be avenged. It wasn't a 100% victory rate though. Some systems and worlds had to be abandoned for a later date, as the Crusade's fleets could not be bogged down and waste time. For example, the Alpha Legion were able to wage a vicious war of sabotage in the Prigmagenesis system, hence G-Man pulled out of it. Here are some of the greatest moments of the Indomitus Crusade. The Battle of Volis, where Abaddon tried to use shattered Necron pylons to prevent the Indomitus Crusade from being able to warp jump. This ended poorly for Abaddon, but honestly mad respect for his initiative. The devastation of Baal, where the Blood Angels made a last stand against High Fleet Leviathan. Despite their mighty effort, they were outnumbered at least 1,000 to 1, and could not hope to win. Guilliman arrived in the 11th hour and he broke the Tyranid fleet, saving the Blood Angels and giving them much needed Primaris reinforcements. The Battle of Gathelmore, where the Wordbearers were using demons to overcome the Sisters of Battle and the Mordian Ironguard defending the world. As the battle was coming to a close and all seemed lost, the Indomitus Crusade arrived as Trajan Valoris himself led an army of Custodes and Grey Knights to save the day. Yeah, look, good luck with that one, Wordbearers. The Rapists had become the Rapees, as all the traces of chaos were quickly annihilated. The Indomitus Crusade was wrapped up with the Battle of Rakos, which saw the Wordbearers, Iron Warriors, and Black Legionnaires get absolutely fucked on. After that, the goal of the Indomitus Crusade had been achieved: secure Imperium Sanctus, which is the side of the Great Rift that still gets the light of the Astronomicon, hand out the Primaris to basically every single Space Marine chapter, and secure a reliable access point to Imperium Nihilus, which is the dark, shitty side of the Imperium that can't use the Astronomicon. It's likely the Indomitus would have continued beyond the Battle of Raucus, however Mortarion was getting horny for Ultramar, hence Guilliman had to return home to fight off the forces of the Plague God. So whilst officially the Indomitus Crusade is over, the many battle groups and fleets still work to liberate Imperial worlds and clap some demonic cheeks. When it first came out, the Indomitus Crusade lasted for over 100 years, but due to the fact that this low-key meant that a lot of our favourite non-Space Marine characters would have died from old age, as well as other logistical writing issues, the Crusade was retconned to have lasted for a bit over a decade, which is more appropriate in my opinion. Some people are a bit about the Imperium getting another wankfest crusade, where they basically dominated every battle, but I like it. The Imperium had just gone through some serious shit, so without something like the Indomitus Crusade, the setting would have become hopeless. It's grimdark, sure, but grimdark isn't just a cesspit of darkness and hopelessness, it's the dying light that holds back the darkness. If I wanted to engage with a super depressing, hopeless setting, I'll just play fucking Dark Souls. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. Really $1 per month give you access to a boatload of naughty content. Is it still hentai if it doesn't come from Japan? I feel like it isn't, but I could be wrong. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more dominant content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.